So I'm back. Sorry we got interrupted. Had somebody walk in, and I need to be able to take care of people because that's the most important thing. Um, I think we left off in talking about cognitive dissonance, and as we're talking about cognitive dissonance, we're talking about those things that challenge our head versus our heart when we can't resolve the conflict that happens between our head and our heart. Something that we know to be right and something that we know to be wrong, and how it creates this incongruency inside of us. Um, it's a hard time to be able to resolve that when we think about our family. When we think about those individuals we love who have taught us and sacrificed and giving us every opportunity that we can to be the place that we are as we stand on the shoulders of those giants that are in front of us. It's hard to admit that those giants may have either created a racist system, advanced a racist system, or stood idly by and did nothing to demolish that system. That because of it, they may have benefited and created, again, this other piece of white privilege. It's a tough space to actually be in. And it's a tough space to try to resolve that when we're talking about the individuals that we love. The same individuals that have created us and educated us may have also been involved in creating and protecting this system that continues to punish a lot of people today. Finally, the last point that I was going to get at, so you're really getting down the last couple of moments here, was that there's a lack of courage. And when I talk about the lack of courage, what I specifically mean is that it takes individuals from the group of the oppressor to free the oppressed. Okay? It's incumbent for those individuals that are part of the system to be active in tearing it down or restructuring it, or else it doesn't work. So in reality, African Americans or black people have made up 20% of the total population, no more than that, over the course of history. If any one people, which is an impossibility by the way, get together and have one unified voice, doesn't happen. Doesn't matter if you're black, white, grizzly gray, okay? You can't get Democrats and Republicans who all happen to be the same color in the same room to agree on something, just as a side note. If you should happen to get a whole bunch of people together and they all happen to have the same point of view, and they still only make up 20% of the total population, they don't have the power alone to change it. So, in reality, the voting registration and the voting rights of 1963 that came through, it happened because white people from the North got involved. See, as many times as many black people were beaten, hung, lynched, denied their human rights, much less their civil rights, it was going to continue to happen until conscientious objectors from the North stepped in and said, we've got to do something about it. It's at that point that people started realizing the humanity that was involved. And when we got that humanity that was involved, we got a chance to see white people and brown people and black people being beaten, slain, side by side. Had dogs sit on them, had hoses turned on them, side by side. Then we could see the humanity and what was wrong. And then it caused other people to get involved. It caused more Caucasians to get involved and to stand up and say, this isn't right. When we don't have the courage to stand up and say, this isn't right, we allow bullies to proliferate. We allow hate to proliferate. We have to stop and stand that in its place. And the moment that more of us do that, when we see something wrong and we say, this is wrong and I want to do something about it, and we think about it in terms of not how is this going to affect me, but how is this going to affect us, then we all get better. And we get an opportunity to put this type of inequality in our past instead of having it in our present. But because we don't take care of these 5 things, because we don't acknowledge the fact that racism exists, we don't acknowledge our sickness as a country, we don't have knowledge of our own history, so we keep making the same mistakes, we can't acknowledge the fact that there is a structural difference inside the system, and it does provide a privilege for certain people. We have a problem with actually being able to say, you know, people in my family and people that I love participated in this and helped build this. And we have a problem with saying, I lack the courage to stand up and get involved and make sure that I'm standing up for my brother. Is why we keep having this racism that exists across this country. You and I can be the generation that ends racism. We can be the people that gets rid of this insidious thing for all the years to come. Sure, I realize there's always going to be a small percentage of individuals that are just ignorant, and there's nothing you can do about it, but we can end this on a large level. But it requires you using your voice, me using my voice, all of us saying, this is unacceptable. All of us saying, I want to judge a man based upon the content of his character. It requires all of us stepping forward and believing in the ideals, even if we failed to reach them in the past, of our founding fathers. It requires all of us to support demonstrations that say, this is my reality and this is where it's impacting me, even when it doesn't touch me personally. And thanks for taking the time and listening to me. And even if you disagree with me, I hope this cast has provided you a space to think about things in a different way, or to have a productive conversation. Really, that's where it begins. If you can listen and share without being dogmatic and digging your heels in, then that's a better place than we were yesterday. Try and have a good day. Bye-bye.